Hello and welcome to another edition of the Cyclone Insider live stream and podcast. I'm Travis Hines. He's Randy Peterson coming to you after a bye week, both for the Iowa State football team as well as the Cyclone Insider live stream. So good to be back. Glad to have a football game to talk about for this weekend. Iowa State travels to Waco to take on Baylor at what time is this game at, Randy? 2:30? On Saturday,
unfortunately.
Iowa State riding high, 3-1 in the Big 12, winners of 3 of their last 4 after a pretty disappointing 1-2 start to the year. I don't know if it's been a completely different football team over the last 4 games, Randy, but it certainly seems to be inarguably an improving football team. And I think we talked about that a little bit after the Cincinnati win. But it'll be interesting to see what they look like on Saturday after a week off in a game that they're going to be favored, but on the road in a place that's been tough for them to win the last few years. I think this sets up very interestingly for Iowa State, especially when you look out further ahead. And, this is one of those games where if you're going to get to 6 wins, you'd sure like to have it.
If you're going to get to 6 wins, you darn sure better get this one. That's for sure. Hi, Travis.
Hello.
It's the same Iowa State team. Yeah, it's the same players, same coaches, and all that good stuff. But I think it's an Iowa State team with more confidence than they've had, and that they've garnered this confidence after the Ohio game. I think that was a great wake up call for this team, a great wake up call for the coaches. They both needed it. They changed the They changed the offense, not drastically, but they're throwing the ball more and they're performing the offense better than what they did, and especially they're doing that well over the last few games. I would say that the offensive line is improving, and it certainly got better in depth with Jake Rimsberg coming back whatever that was 2 weeks ago at Cincinnati. So I presume he'll play more on Saturday. And this team is 2-0 since Brendan Black, a true freshman, has joined the starting lineup. Now, he's not a difference maker. He's not the difference maker. He is a difference maker. Excuse me. So yeah, I think this team is the same team, like you said, but it's in the fact that it's the same players, but they're running different plays. I think they've opened the offense up some more for Rocco, since he's proven that he can run a little bit. He's not who I don't know, second coming of I don't know, RG3 in that respect, but He knows what he's doing out there on the field, and the fact that he has shown that he can rush the football also, and he's got a little bit of escapability. I think that's enabled them to try some option plays, for example. So being curious what plays we see and how long it will take Iowa State on Saturday to work out some of the kinks after not having a game for the last week.
We heard Campbell on Tuesday talk about how they kind of, for the most part, maintain their normal game week schedule for practices throughout the bye week. He cited just the fact that they're so young, and for a lot of guys, this is so new that it didn't make a lot of sense for them, to completely take their foot off the pedal and deviate from what has been working well. And it's just another week of getting reps for these young guys. And I think, Randy, to me, when you look at what they've done over the last 4 games and what they might do over the final 5 of the regular season, is that it's probably worth putting it into perspective and context in who Iowa State is, who they could be, and who they're playing. Because when you look at the schedule, Oklahoma State is 3-1 now, but they were playing bad football a month ago. Iowa State beat them. They beat TCU. Again, maybe a mediocre football team. Cincinnati is bad, in my opinion. And Oklahoma is a college football playoff contender. They got demolished by Oklahoma, and they beat those other 3 teams that essentially are their peers peers right now, because this is not a team where we thought coming into the year that it could or would compete for a Big 12 title. It's almost doesn't matter what they did against Oklahoma, because they're not competing against Oklahoma. They're competing against Oklahoma State, TCU, Baylor, to a lesser extent Cincinnati, because again, I think Cincinnati is going to end up last in the league. But they're beating the teams that are their peers in terms of what they're trying to accomplish in the 2023 season, which is get experience for these young guys, try to get to a bowl game. And they're taking care of business right now the way they need to be. And then you look out the rest of the season, this is a winnable game on Saturday. They're a favorite, or at least they opened as a favorite against Baylor. You're home against Kansas, which is good but not great. Then you're at BYU. Same thing, where BYU ain't great, but they're okay. They can win some football games. And then you got the Texas-Kansas State games to end the year. Texas at home looks really tough. K-State on the road looks really tough. So, and I think you wrote this, that these next 3 games are really pivotal because they're against their peers, their peer group within the Big 12 this season. Texas is on another level. I think K-State is probably on another level, but we'll have a better idea a month from now when that game comes. But and I say all of that to be very complimentary of Iowa State. Like, they're winning the games that are going to dictate their season in terms of bowl game, in terms of the vibes. If you lose to Oklahoma and Texas, and on the road to K-State, that's the way things go. Like, that's not a big deal, but you've already stacked these 3 wins. And if you can get some combination over the next 3, I think you're feeling pretty damn good about where you are as a team and a program if you're Iowa State.
I don't know whether there's anybody right now, Travis, realistically, that would have Iowa State at what is Iowa State now? 4-3, maybe. I don't know. I don't know whether there's anybody that realistically would have thought they'd be better than that. Okay, I guess you can say that the Ohio loss was an outlier. Okay, 5-2, but I still don't think that. I think Iowa State being right now 4-3, Iowa State's in the exact position that I thought it would be in. And the fact that they're doing it with these young players, like you mentioned, that's really a feather in the cap of the coaches, of the recruiting. Let's not forget that. A lot of these guys, Brendan Black, I mentioned him a few minutes ago. Brendan Black came ready to play. I'm not certain that J.J. Cole didn't come ready to play, except for the fact that Rocco came ready to play better. Plus, he had some experience. He'd already been in the system. Sama came ready to play. The tight end, Ben Bramer, those guys, Jack Sadowski. I don't think we've seen that from a freshman class before, and we didn't know what this freshman class would be like. But now we know that. And it makes you scratch your head a little bit and say, okay, maybe Iowa State could have been 5-2 at this point in time. But the fact that it's 4-3, and like you said, with the next, whatever it is, the next 3 games that are those 3 games will determine whether Iowa State goes to a bowl game, obviously, because you got to win 2 of the next 3. You got to win 2 of the next 3 because, like you said, because of the gauntlet on the end. I'm not ruling out winning at BYU, for example. Like you said, BYU's not great. I don't know that BYU, other than the whole different time zone stuff, I don't know whether BYU presents a lot of problems being for a visiting team. So the way Iowa State has played the last few games, and I have to say that again, the way Iowa State has played the last few games, I think winning anything except winning those 2 games, anything except assuming a victory in those 2 games is certainly on the table for this team. Campbell told us on Tuesday that he didn't foresee any injuries. So this team is as healthy as it's been. It sounds like, yes, sometimes coaches stretch the truth a bit there. Sometimes, I'm not saying that's the case this time, but I certainly look for Iowa State. Like I said, once it gets past maybe the first possession on either side, on both sides of the ball, work the kinks out, then boom, it's just like back to normal, because there will be some rust after not playing. I'm assuming, and that's to be expected. Yeah, I really fully think that Iowa State can win this game, and I actually would halfway expect Iowa State to win this game.
What are your thoughts on Baylor? I mean, I think they're in a similar situation as Iowa State, where the youth has made life a little bit more difficult for them after, some high points, or certainly winning the Big 12 being one of them under Dave Aranda, where things have gotten a little more difficult this year for the Bears.
Yeah, and it starts with Blake Shapen, the quarterback, and he's been hurt. He's played the last 3 or 4 games, and in those games he's 89 for 145. And no, I don't know this off the top of my head. I wrote him down just before he came on. 89 for 145 for 1,200 yards, and he's completed that's 61% of his pass completions. So he is playing well, and in that respect, Campbell, I think, was being extremely 100% accurate. That in his last 2 games, and especially his last 6 quarters, and I didn't look up the quarters, but certainly in his last few games, he's been very good. So I think that's where it starts. There's a good group of receivers, just like Iowa State's got. I don't know about the offensive line, but Iowa State, because Shapen has been sacked a few times, but I don't think Iowa State will pose much of a threat to sack Shapen, but they certainly can make him uncomfortable in the pocket. And if he is uncomfortable in the pocket, the Blake Shapen that Iowa State saw the last time they played them, I don't think it is the Blake Shapen they're going to see on Saturday, in the respect that his injury is curtailing him from the escapability, that, at least statistics wise, escapability that we've seen him have before. And plus, I was on a pod with a couple of our colleagues at the Waco paper, and they said the same thing, that the injury that he had, I think it was some kind of knee or leg or something or other, that's been limiting him as far as his scrambling and being able to get out in the pocket and make plays. So that's another situation. But Iowa State has been good against those kind of quarterbacks for the most part, because of Bo Freeler, for example, Zach Lovett, for example. I'm not saying those guys, those linebackers, whatever you want to call that position, that hybrid position, I'm not saying they're spying on a quarterback. They're going wherever he goes, but they're certainly aware of where the quarterback is going, and Shapen has that capability, because Iowa State has seen it in the past. So that's what I'm looking for from Baylor. I'm looking for a Shapen game from them. I'm looking, because the rushers, I'm not blown away by Baylor's rushing. They're rushing. Actually, Iowa State's rushing average is better than Baylor's, not by much, but that says something right there. And Iowa State against the rush is a little bit better than Baylor. And for Campbell to say that they're mirror images, that was right on also, essentially. So I think this is but passing offense, that's where it could be the difference. Baylor's averaging 280 yards a game passing offense. He'll be passing into a secondary that has 100 interceptions, 12, I think it is, 12, I think, interceptions this year, among the tied for second in the nation in interceptions, so it's going to be Shapen against Iowa State's secondary, or vice versa. And, whoever comes out the best will go home the happiest.
Iowa State, Baylor, Saturday, 2:30 p.m. in Waco, Texas. Randy and I will be there to give you all the coverage you could ever dream of on DesMoinesRegister.com. We're only about a week and a half, not even, away from the start of basketball season as well. So be sure to look for plenty to read and listen to about Iowa State basketball, both on the men's and women's side of the Suka basketball complex. For Randy Peterson, I'm Travis Hines. This has been the Cyclone Insider live stream and podcast. Thanks for listening, watching, and we'll catch you.